found it actually late. I found hardcore when I was about 17 and a half. My first show was at the Underground in Wilkes-Barre. Um, God, I was very sheltered before that. Actually got out, met up with a good friend who was kind of out all the time, and we all went to the mall, and he told me about these hardcore shows. And walked in, and Eternal Bleeding was playing. They were a death metal band. No One's Hero, Fabulous Disaster. Two other bands I think were kind of Nirvana type because it was kind of well mixed up there. And that was it. Before that, I was a normal metalhead. I think everybody came from the metal world. And I was hooked. It was very different, very... it's what I was looking for. I'm not really much into metal at all anymore. Some of the stuff I grew up at that time, still with me, but I felt there was something I was still reaching out for, something I was looking for. And what I found in hardcore wasn't just the family, but lyrically. Lyrically is what drew me in. Lyrics is what mattered to me. A lot of metal stuff is very simple. Doesn't really go a lot of places. There are some, but hardcore I felt talked to me, and I was hooked ever since. And that was in 1993. For the next 2 years, I kind of was the guy that got the shows here and there. I wasn't exactly active, but when I graduated in 1995 from high school, most people go to college. I did go to college in the daytime and I lived home, but that's when I actively started going to hardcore shows. And here we are 20 years later. I feel that Pennsylvania, for a very long time, was this overshadowed period. People could say Boston was over them too and all that. I just felt completely as a whole that Pennsylvania was always this lost in the shuffle. When you talk to people from New York, they can't even really name you a lot of PA bands. I think that changed over the last decade. One of the reasons I'm doing this film is to let the world know how amazing this state is. It's got a great history. Philadelphia's got an amazing history. And there's a lot of pride here. And I think it's kind of like a bully in a way. When a bully is kind of proved himself and beat up a lot of people over a course of time, maybe stops fighting. And I think like they need to upgrade their account. I think when you look around, not only just PA but Connecticut, and there's a lot of other places out here that exploded with the online world. Every state exploded, and I just feel right now the word Mecca has been thrown around, but I feel we are the Mecca right now. I think we got the ball. I like the fights in hardcore. Straight up, you can't call something hardcore without having some sort of edge to it. I never fought one person in the hardcore scene in 20 years. But I do have plenty of times where you'd mix some hardcore bands with metal bands at the big venues. We're safe to say we've got ourselves quite a few stories out of that. When I found this scene, it was something I was looking for. I was looking, a lot of people don't know where they belong in life. They never find their tribe. When I got here, I was like, this is where I belong. These are my people. And for that, if you want to call me a likable guy or not, it kind of kept me away from a lot of the fights. I never wanted to bring that. I never wanted to really fight anyone in the scene because you fought so hard to get where you belonged in life and to find out who you are. I didn't want to be worried about looking over my shoulder. When kids would come in from other cities, if something broke out, as long as I didn't see any of my immediate friends getting their heads smashed off the ground or something I had to intervene on, I didn't want to worry about if I ever went to Detroit or something, like, yo, there's that guy from that show, let's get him. I always wanted free reign, and that's the way it's been for 20 years, and that's the way I continually want it to be. At the same time, I just said I love them, but there's also times where it gets a little too out of hand. I feel a lot when a new kid comes through the door, because we were all the new kid at one point. I don't think everybody walked in dressed right or, looked right or knew all the rules. You had to come from a metal or a gothic or a hippie or wherever you came from. When you're picking on a new kid that came through the door, look at how this person's dressed, or they're not one of us. They're trying. They've got to learn, and it always works itself out. Like, don't don't be pushing people out the door like they came here. They give them a chance. That's sort of part of the fights I'm not cool with. If a fight just breaks out, even if a band starts fighting with each other on stage, I'm sorry, I like it. I never take sides. Someone can just drop. It's like hockey. They drop you. You still love them anyway. If they drop the gloves, it's all good. It happens. You can't be hardcore and not have an edge like that. It's not feasible. This is something I've wanted to say for 20 years, okay? One of the things I got out of hardcore was awareness, okay? Awareness that's going on in the world. You see how fake and corporate music is and how much stuff stands for absolutely nothing. Our scene is pure integrity. I understand every so many years goes by, the faces change over. It's almost like Saturday Night Live, if you want to really compare it to something. How do you leave something that is this so powerful and meant something to you because some of the people have left and moved on? This is something that's in your heart. I don't know how you conform back to society and fall in line. And every so often, someone will come up to me who I haven't seen in a very long time, and we do the big hugs and we catch up. I'm like, "Where you been?" They're like, "Oh, I got a wife and kid now, and I'm a manager at this." And I'm like, "Cool," but like, "What are you doing?" And I tell them, I'm doing this, and I'm still in Arkansas, and like they laugh, and I'm like, "What's the laughing for?" And they're like, "Well, it's kind of something young kids do." I'm like, "Well, what do you do with yourself now? What do you do with your off time when you're not with your kids?" They're like, "Oh, they never have a good answer. I don't have an answer for you because they don't have an answer." So, like, I don't understand that. Everybody could have families. Hardcore kids have families. They work hard just like everybody else. And on their free time, they're still hardcore. So, like, don't be trashing it. Because I am going to freaking start pounding some. It pisses me off. Don't do that. You were never real in the first place if you ever said that, something like that.
Stole my fucking answer, you guys.
Okay. Sounds cliche, but I was from 570 area, NEPA area. By far, CC's is my favorite era of hardcore, period. When I came to Philly, very close. Those first 4 years meeting up with the Philly kids, that wild time was definitely very close. But CC's was where it happened. And one thing I could say about from being up there in the Scranton area compared to Philadelphia, New York, or whatever, I'm going to tell you something that I feel very strongly about. That the burbs, whether it would be Erie, Lansdale, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, compared to Philadelphia or New York City, you big cities are extremely spoiled. You have 3 shows a week, sometimes more, and sometimes you look at the schedule and be like, yeah, I'll do this and this, I'm skipping that one. Or I'm going to take the whole week off because the following week you got 3 more shows. When you lived in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, or Erie, or Lansdale, you went to every show. No matter who was playing, if you disliked the band even, that was your tribe and it was your only time to see them. Because certain people lived hours away. It was a lot more valued. And I'm telling you right now, those areas value shows by far more than city life. I'm not saying city life's not good. I'm there. When I first moved to Philly, those 3 shows a week, I was at every one of them for a good 3 years. Like, it was like, oh, you could eat buffet. I loved it. But I don't think people in New York City or Philly really value what they got, because when you're on your off time, you have a lot of other culture there to keep your mind going. Where when you're in Scranton, you're just foaming at the mouth to get to the next show, and you're counting the days, and sometimes you could go a month, and it's utterable hell. This has been talked about a lot in this documentary. I have no idea why All Else Fails is not one of the biggest bands walking the earth. Pure emotion, pure talent. They take you in different directions that you normally don't see in hardcore. Those lyrics, Luke's voice, and everything, like, they dig into you. They dig in past that tough guy in all of us, and they grab that sadness and emotion that you're hiding. Starkweather, much talked about. When I was going to my first few shows at the factory in Wilkes-Barre, I heard Starkweather and I just froze. I think that's the normal thing. Everyone's like a deer in headlights, but especially in 1993. There's so many bands that sound like them today. It's such a shame that band didn't blow up. I don't think any of those band members aren't happy. They're all great people, and I think they're totally cool with it. I just think it's the rest of us that cry about that sort of thing. Turmoil. Wow. There's so many good shows that came through that you saw when you were young. Like the 90s, I think really in Pennsylvania was very good. From everything from Freight Train to Frontline to, I Hate You, Hate to Say It. Even like bands like Deckard and the Down Train and everything, American Youth, all of them up there. RSB. There was so much good stuff in the 90s, and I'm hoping this documentary really, might even wake the dead out of some of these bands and they start coming around again. But there's a lot of Pennsylvania hardcore bands, and like any band, whether it's hardcore or not, it's got to touch you. But you got to actually reach out to investigate and look for some of these bands, because once you know what it's like, once a band touches you, it's like forever loyalty. I have a thing. You could say the internet has definitely helped hardcore. It reaches a lot of bands overseas a lot better. I mean, any kid from anywhere in the world could log into some website and start listening to any type of music, and it's helped the hardcore scene. And it's good when American bands, the hardcore community, could go somewhere in the world. And it was, what's the words I'm looking for? I'm choking here. The internet helped with that. It's also hurt a lot of integrity of shows. You kids have no idea, especially getting back again when you lived in the burbs. When you were getting into hardcore shows, if you didn't know someone personally by name or phone number to call somebody, you had to go down to your local music store and look at the wall. And what do hardcore flyers look like? They look like metal flyers too. And if you weren't into heavy metal, like, sometimes you took a flyer off the wall, like, yeah, I'm going to this, and you'd show up, like, cool, hardcore show, and you're looking around trying to fish for the next one, the next doorway in. But if there was nothing, and you went back and yanked another flyer off the wall, and you might drive an hour, and it might be all heavy metal bands, and you just hated life. It's like, I just drove an hour. It is not the show, because you're still new. You're trying to weed some stuff out. And as much as the internet could fix that, you could be like, all right, I sat home and checked all this out from here. I think it takes a lot of integrity away. I think earning your craft, if that's the words, when you actually went out and earned it, I think was just a lot more. There was a lot more pride there. I think the internet, it's got its strengths, but I think more or less it hurt us a little more. I always liked those email lists. Sometimes you'd come home and there'd be flyers sent to you. There'd be a demo tape sent to you. It'll always be around. We're not going nowhere. Hardcore ain't going anywhere, but I definitely miss all those days, and any of them old heads out there would definitely be agreeing with me. What hardcore is to me is, everybody could have their little emotional stories, but For a lot of people that didn't know me before the hardcore scene, I was a very quiet kid that stayed in his room for 5 hours every night after school and just watched a bunch of slasher movies because I didn't really know where I belonged. I had all the heavy metal posters on the wall, and that was the easiest thing to get to, was heavy metal. You know, it was more mainstream, but something was lacking. I really wasn't a metalhead. And when I found hardcore, I found who I was. I found people that were like me. And those people are still with me in my life to this day and will be forever. You found bands that mattered. You found family. Everybody may have their own issues with their own family. I don't. But they might not understand you so much. But hardcore kids do. And that's what you found. So I have like a giant thank you to everybody I met in the hardcore scene. They've helped fill the void in my life, and you know, acceptance. And again, I bring up awareness of what's going on in the world. Like, you ain't getting no goals past us. I'd also like to bring up one other thing, was Matt Gray. Matt Gray from First Things First and Catfish Bullhead and Bigwig. How amazing this dude was to the area up there in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. This guy was one. He really was. He was like a cat on adrenaline at all times. He was all over the place. But Matt also had an event near his house. If you saw the movie Dazed and Confused and thought that was cool, we killed that. We would have. Him and that group up there would have 15 kegs of black and tan on a private lake, okay? Means cops can't come unless something really bad happens. And there'd be 800 to 1,000 people there. And it was so many groups of people. The bands would play. Well, remember one time we brought in No Redeeming Social Value? Very appropriate for a party like that, but oh my God, you guys have no idea how hardcore these parties were. And anything, it was this amazing time up there. So always remember, when those things are going on up the sticks, you say, "Oh, what are you doing up the sticks?" Some cool stuffs are going on like that top any of your big city parties in attendance any day of the week. And I mean, anything you could think of. Fights sometimes broke out, but for the most part it was good. People would all bring their dogs, and there'd be hundreds of dogs just roaming around this party loosely. You'd walk through looking for your car in a giant field because there's 800 people, there's at least 400 cars, and you don't know where your car is, and you're walking by and all cars are going up and down because people are just hooking up left and right. It was just a madness, but bands like Soulless played there, Catfish, Bullhead, Plank. The list is huge, but it was just one hell of a time up there, and I think that's that.